And we are back. Still on the front differential, right where we left off. Everything's lubed up, admiring the helical gear and how smooth that is. Compare to the WL Toys, which I believe was a straight gear, straight ring and pinion. Now, if you guys have trouble putting this front differential in, and you're thinking that your bearings need to be pushed in a little bit farther on either side, flip the case upside down. I was sitting here struggling with it, thinking that those bearings weren't on all the way, because it is a pretty tight fit on that shaft. And then I went and looked at it and was like, oh crap, the case was upside down. Flipped it over and bam, she was slid right in. So here we go, we're going to put this back cover on and continue forward here. And just making sure we do everything right, we're going to put that back cover on with that little bracket down there at the bottom. Kind of looks like it's got an arrow pointing up there. Just like that. Slap her on. Alright, she's together. Just inserted the 4 screws into the holes. Obviously you can see right where those guys are at. We'll tighten this down. And then we're going to move around and put that drive shaft on the back here. That way that part is all said and done, because that's back here on this page. So let me tighten this down. Once again, don't go crazy on tightening these down. I'll let you know in a minute how tough the plastic is compared to WL Toys. Because when I did the WL Toys one, I just put a Vattera differential inside the WL Toys differential case here. So we'll see how it goes here. Stand by. Alright, so those are all tightened down. Definitely don't go crazy with these. I think it's very possible to strip these out. I haven't stripped any out on it, but I think it's extremely, it's very possible. Simply just for the fact that you're using really small screws with fine threads. So, and since it's a small screw with fine threads, the smaller the screw, the finer the thread, the less grip you have on the less surface area that you're going to get for a bite on the plastic. Just because the threads aren't deep, they're shallow threads. So ultimately, if it was a coarse, almost like a drywall screw or something with a coarse thread on it, it would definitely get a lot more bite, and you would have less worries of stripping anything out. But nevertheless, you don't need to go crazy on this. Like my WL Toys one is like completely stripped out and it still holds together just fine. So, because it's kind of clamped in place by everything else. Nevertheless, food for thought, FYI, don't go crazy on these screws. And just to give you an idea on what the screw head size is, it's the same size as this little Allen set screw that is currently on my driver here. I didn't change my bit, so it's the same size as those right there. So not much thread biting onto things. Alright, so we're going to lock this drive shaft in place on these 2 flat spots here. And get that all taken care of. Going to use some thread lock on here. Probably not going to use red. I'm probably going to use some blue on it. Pretty sure it's not going to come out, even with the blue. It's not going to back itself out on its own. So, especially since it's just a straight shot. It's not going through any kind of bending or anything. So, just going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on this guy. What's with the puddle of Loctite, Jim? Whoops. Spillage. Breaking in my manual. Alright, so that is all complete. All locked down and in place. Blue Loctite on there. Wiped off the excess. There's a little bit sitting inside the socket there. That is fine. Give me something to grip on the way back out for the next time. Now we're going to be installing the A-arms and this little support bracket that goes on the back. But before we do that, I'm actually going to compare these A-arms to the WL Toys, because I'm kind of curious. I just kind of wonder if these are shorter than the WL Toys. So give me 1 second to take a peek at that. If it is shorter, I'll show it on camera. If it's not, then we will continue with our video here. Alright, so Mr. WL Toys, I just lined it up. They are the exact same length. So exact same length on these guys. This stuff is a little bit thinner because you can push on these tie rod ends and bend this plastic, and you can't do that with the Vattera. The Vattera is just a little bit more rigid once again. So just a little quick comparison there. And here we go. We are continuing, and we need two M3 10mm tapered, two M3 10mm button head. Looks like these button head ones are going through this aluminum on the sides. And where are the tapered ones going? Where are they at? Those are the ones for the front to keep all the A-arms and crap in place. Alright, so let's get this little bracket dug up and found. Alright, hardware is gathered. Bracket is sitting in place. Sorta. Kinda, sorta. That's where it needs to go. So we will run these two M3 10mm button heads into the sides and continue from there. Alright, bracket is installed. Once again, don't over tighten. You'll definitely know once you're home, you know, when the screw bottom's out down in there. You can still give it a good little snug before it starts to pull threads. So just be careful when you're putting all the screws in. Not mainly so much for the plastic, but just so much that you're running fine threads into a harder plastic at this point in time. So regardless, just be careful when you're putting the screws in like that. Alright, so we're going to throw the A-arms on. Excuse me. We're going to throw the A-arms on real quick and get that squared away. Making sure that we're putting them on in the right direction with the shock mounts on facing the front and the sway bar mount facing the back. So let's get that together. Alrighty, we got our wings on here. Our pins are in. Everything is going in the right direction. Shock mounts on the outside, sway bar mounts at the back. Now we're just going to slip on this little keeper. Well, the rest of the A-arm holders, and then this is the keeper that goes on afterwards. And this goes on with these little divots facing down, just like that. So we'll just slip this on the front, put this on over top of it, and run those two screws in. Alright, so there we are all together, and then these screws here as well, just run them in until they stop. You don't have to over tighten them. It's really not, the A-arms really aren't going anywhere. Alright, so that little mess is all together, and we are going to turn the page. Somewhere here, get my magnets out of the way. And we are looking at front CV assembly. I've done this a few times. Alright, let's gather some hardware and get on this. And I'll be a monkey's uncle. They actually told us what parts bag to get. That's a first. Haven't seen that in a while. Bag C3. Yes, sir. C3 had everything we need, and then some. And in that little paused hiatus there, I went out and put one more shot of clear coat on all my stuff. It's 8 o'clock at night currently, and I heard a couple little rumbles of thunder out there when I was throwing on those last little coats of clear coat. So hopefully Mother Nature was kind to me, and I was able to get in my last little bit of spray paint. I got everything drying. Maybe by later on tonight, one of these videos, I will unveil the body. I don't know what it's going to turn out like yet. Here I am just chatting away. Don't know what it's going to turn out like yet because I use that Clear Effects paint job, which is the metal flake, and so whatever flat color you put behind it is what's going to determine what it looks like. And so I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. The paint that I use to put behind it is questionable. I've never used it before. I usually use Duplicolor paint, and I figured I'd try this out, so I'm not too sure how it's going to work. It was actually the Plastidip paint, spray-on paint, and it was like a bluish color. And you know, you can peel that stuff off. So after I got done putting that blue coat down on top of my metallic flake, you know, I should be talking about the differential and not that, but after I put the blue coat down on top of the metallic flake, I was kind of worried about it peeling off. So I used some regular Duplicolor white spray paint and used that for a backer on top of the blue. So it's going to be blue on the outside from what you see, but on the inside it's going to be white. And then I've just been applying clear coat after that, just to try to put some paint over the edges so that Plastidip paint isn't going to be as likely to peel because it's going to have a skin of regular paint over top of it. Was my idea. I don't know if it's going to work or not. It's the first time I've ever used that Plastidip paint, and I probably won't use it again just because I don't like the spray nozzle. You really got to push on it. It's kind of hard to get even strokes. You got to get pretty close to it, and it really messes up your. I mean, you really need a respirator when you're using that because it's pretty harsh. I mean, you really don't want to be breathing it. I was breathing through my shirt, and it was still bothering me. Like all last night, I was had a hard time breathing just because of it. Hard time breathing, I should say, because of it. All right, so back to the job at hand. We'll start assembling these drive shafts. Pretty easy, pretty much the same as the ones on the. It's pretty much the same as these drive shafts, just more of them. So we'll get on that real quick, get that taken care of, start doing this real quick, and then I might take a little pause and grab some dinner since it's like 8 o'clock at night. So let's get to it. And just like clockwork, there be one all together, spring on, everything is tightened down. Our little Allen is tightened down, wherever that is right there. Real easy access on it right on this side, but I went through the middle where you can't see because the spring is wrapped around it. Alright, so we got one shaft put together. On to shaft number 2. And when I start putting these together, the first thing I do is I put that little Allen set screw into this drum to insert it into the end of the shaft here. So that's the very first thing that I do. Is put the Allen set screw into the drum, insert the drum into the end of the shaft, put the shaft into the cup, slide the pin through the cup, through this drum, back out, make sure it's centered between the ends here on the output shaft or on the spindle, and then go back and tighten this Allen screw down, which is gonna lock that pin in place in the middle, and then put the spring on. And somebody's always got to be a problem child. This one spring, it's on there, but as if you can see it, there's nothing wrong with it currently, but when I put it on there, one half of the spring jumped to the other half of the spring, kind of jumbling it all up there. So once I had it on there, I had to trace it out with that little scratch awl, that little pick, and it's so impossible to see, and the lighting is so horrible in my kitchen. Had a hell of a time chasing that thing back around to get it back on track and sitting where it's supposed to be sitting. So anywho, both drive shafts assembled, and we're going to start working on some front end parts here, putting the bearings and the kingpins and all that stuff into the steering knuckle here. Definitely know about those two guys. Those keep the kingpins in place, those two set screws. Bearing on one side, bearing on the other. I didn't know that there was a spacer in there. I don't think the WL Toys has a spacer on theirs. Alright, we'll slap these babies together real quick. And just real quick, more food for thought. I don't know why they're having us do this part right now. I mean, technically, if I was building the truck, I would get the front differential on there, get the back differential on there, and then put these on last. Like after all of this stuff, after all this stuff is hanging on the truck, it's a lot easier to attach the front spindle and kingpin and half shafts and all that stuff. I don't know why they want you to do it now and just have that assembled and laying off to the side, and then you can try to wrestle that whole unit into place. When it's just so much easier to have this on the truck and to do it from there versus doing it separately. So, just saying, kind of a backwards order. I'm putting that together. Alright, so to start off with, I put the 2 micro set screws in the holes here for the kingpins on the steering knuckle. I've got everything kind of laid out here. We're going to insert this smaller outer bearing, this little aluminum bushing here, and then this bigger inner bearing, then the drive shaft, and then at that point in time we'll put the pin through and the hex on, and then connect the turnbuckle there up to this whatchamacallit here and slap that together. That'll be one complete unit there. It's relatively easy. I've actually had this things apart on the WL toys several times, like 100 times or more on the right hand side or the left hand side, driver's side, right hand as you're facing it. This is, like I said, this is a very simple process. They just have you doing one side at a time. This, I believe, is the driver's side that we're working on currently. Alright, so I put the bearing on the front half of this turnbuckle, and on the back half you can see that there's just a small little divot there in between the bearing cup and the bearing, and that's where they want you to put that aluminum spacer before you add this next bearing. So we'll go ahead and put that in, and then we'll put this guy in. 1 aluminum spacer. Survey says aluminum spacer. Alright, now we got the bearing going back in on this side. This is the fatter bearing on the inside. And voila, she is all put together for that part. Slide the drive shaft through it, one of these drive shafts through it. See if I can do this on camera. Bearings popping out on the back side. Re-squish that back in. And we're going to be putting on this wheel hex. Alright, pin is in, wheel hex is on. Time to mate that up with that little turnbuckle there, or whatever that is, and slide the kingpins in. And as far as if you're asking, does it matter which one is which? It does actually. These kind of lean back one way. This was kind of leaning back towards the front of the vehicle. They're showing in the picture that's got the little countersunk area for the nut, which is right there, so you want that on the outside or facing forward. And we'll put it over here and get those kingpins installed, and that's all going to fall apart on the end, so I'm going to have to set my phone down. Alright, so we are all installed there, and we just have to insert these kingpins like so, and then tighten down these set screws. Don't go crazy with them. Once again, just bring them in until they bottom out, and then stop, because there's a little divot in here that they're sitting in. So this plastic is plenty strong enough, and it's getting a lot of grip on it, that you don't have to worry about over tightening or anything like that here as well. Alright, so this one is totally assembled here. And I will say this about the WL toys. The set screws that they use are just a pinch longer. So you're getting a little bit more bite in the hole with, more thread count, basically, in the hole. So that is the nice thing about the WL toys. That's one of the only nicer things that I've come across so far on this build, is that they do use longer set screws in here, which give you a little bit more bite, so less likely to spin the thread. These, they seem like they wanted to spin the thread pretty easy. I just kind of ran them in until they got a little snug, and then just stopped right there. Alright, so we are, speaking of stopping right there, I'm at 19 minutes and 48 seconds, and I desperately need to get something to eat. My stomach is growling like crazy. It is Well, it's 9 o'clock, so I'm gonna go grab something to eat. I'm gonna stop this video, and we'll continue on with the right-hand side drive shaft and go from there. So once again, thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate all the awesome comments from everybody, people I know, people I don't know, people that are just starting to watch my channel. I appreciate all the comments, guys, guys and girls, and kids, and whoever else. Like I said, I'm trying to keep the show clean, so it's available for everybody to watch. Otherwise, I'd be cussing like a sailor, or cussing like a trucker. So thanks again, guys, and we will see you here shortly on the next video, or the next build video. More to come. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We'll see you.